Let me tell you what I witnessed at Lake Region High School. So there we were, walking through the doors of Lake Region High School on what looked like any other day. Hallways buzzing with organized chaos that only exists in schools, locker doors slamming, sneakers squeaking, and the unmistakable mix of body spray and cafeteria food that lingered in the air. But Ronnie Richardson and Chris Singleton, they weren't in a hurry to get anywhere. No, they were doing something you don't see enough of these days. They were connecting, right there in the hallways and outside that theater room, shaking hands with staff, catching students between classes, cracking jokes, making eye contact. The kind of genuine mingle that says, we're not here just to give a presentation and bounce. We're here because we care about you. And let me tell you, the kids noticed. You could see it on their face. This wasn't just another assembly. As we scurried in the theater after the students, the theaters that are full of bright lights, has a stage up front, and typically when you go, you're going to watch a fall band program or a spring chorus concert or that occasional talent show. The place when an assembly happens, the kids scurry in, they slouch in their seats, and they sneak little peeks at their phones and mentally check out and count down the time until they go to the cafeteria. Yeah, that's the type of place. But here's the thing. These kids got completely turned upside down. And let me tell you why. When Chris Singleton stepped under those stage lights, those teenagers locked in. They were glued. Now, I've seen a lot of speakers try to connect to high schoolers. It's not easy. These are young people who have been marketed to, talked at, and lectured to since they could walk. They've got finely tuned BS detectors, and they're not afraid to tune you out if you're not bringing something real. But Singleton brought something different. His humor landed like he was one of them. His stories hit with the weight of truth that didn't need embellishment. Every joke, every pause, every moment of raw vulnerability drew them deeper. You could see it happening in real time. Kids who shuffled in with the enthusiasm of somebody going to the DMV were suddenly sitting up straight, leaning forward, engaged. Here's what struck me. Singleton didn't talk at these students. He talked with them. He brought the kind of raw, unvarnished honesty that cuts through the noise. The kind that says, yeah, life's tough, and it's messy, and it's sometimes downright unfair. But let's talk about how we navigate through those challenges. There was no sugarcoating. There was no BS. Just one human sharing hard-earned wisdom with a room full of young people trying to figure out this complicated world. The laughter that erupted at his perfectly timed zingers. The dead silence when he hit him with the heavy stuff. The kind of silence that only happens when people are genuinely processing something that matters. The slow nods. The eyes that stayed locked instead of drifting. And when it was over, these kids didn't just file out. No, they walked out different. A little taller. A little more thoughtful. Carrying something with them that wasn't there the hour before. A perspective shift. A spark of inspiration. Maybe even a quiet determination to be better than they were when they woke up that morning. That's the thing about moments like this. They're rare. In a world where we're all bombarded with content and noise, and people demanding our attention every waking second, it's something special when someone can command a room full of teenagers without gimmicks or tricks. Just authentic humanity and a message that resonates. So I got to tip my hat to Ronnie Richardson and R2Cares for making this happen. And to Chris Singleton for understanding that reaching these kids starts before you ever step on stage. It starts with treating them like they matter, right there in the hallway. And students, I got to commend you. You showed up, you opened your minds, and you proved that this generation is hungry for real talk from real people. Because on that day, in that theater room, something genuinely important happened. A room full of young people got reminded that their stories matter, their choices count, and their futures are worth fighting for. And if that's not something worth celebrating, folks, I don't know what it is. Because I can tell you personally, after attending that assembly, Chris's speech just stuck with me. It spoke to me. very similar to how I feel it spoke to those students. And now let me introduce you to the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Chris Singleton, to share a little bit about himself and let you in on a little bit of his story.
Brief introduction, name is Chris Singleton. Father, husband to my high school sweetheart, got 3 amazing little kids. Inspirational speaker, former pro baseball player, drafted by the Chicago Cubs. So that's who I am, and that's what I do.
That's very awesome. Now, you went from playing ball to standing in front of thousands of people to share a story about that happened in 2015, where someone came into a church, the Emmanuel AME Church, and shot the place up. One of those people affected was your mama, Sharonda Coleman Singleton. And after that event, you made the comment, love is stronger than hate. And today, millions of people still hang on to that quote. At the time when you said those words, did you actually believe them? Or was that just a declaration you had so that you could fulfill your mission moving forward?
Yeah, great question. I would say before I said love is stronger than hate and forgive my mother's killer, I didn't have anything in my mind about like, what am I going to say? I was kind of just thrown into an interview. And so sharing those words, I think it was like a higher power putting that on my heart. And I see why now, because now that's like my whole life's mission. And I'm grateful that it happened where I said that, but I'm still hurt and upset about why I had to say that, right? Losing my mom, my hero. And so it just fuels me to keep pushing forward and trying to be the opposite of this guy that took my mom. You know, I always say his mission was division and hatred, and my mission is unity, love, and resilience.
Well, we were just here at Lake Region High School. I bared witness to you standing in front of hundreds, if not thousands of students, giving a speech, and right off the bat, I was amazed at how you grabbed their attention and engaged with them. Tell me, from your perspective, how does that make you feel, and what is your goal? What's the message you want to leave these young kids?
Yeah, I think going into it like every school, you know, you kind of got kids talking back and forth and just having fun and not really locking in. And then once I start speaking, they see how passionate I am about this mission, and they kind of were like, you know what? Let me lock in with this guy. Let me listen to him. Let me hear what he's got to say. And they open their hearts. And so when their hearts are open, I just share a message of unity, a message of peace, resilience, and they always gravitate towards that. And so going into a lot of principals like, Chris, I don't know how my students will act. You know, it's 1,000 students in the gym or auditorium, and they were great.
Here's another thing that fascinated me. After you spoke, it was inspiring to see the number of kids walk up and want to speak to you.
Yeah.
And not just speak to you, take your picture and say how you had an impact on them. I felt that was very powerful. And watching them interact with you made me believe that they were either facing something themselves or had a bigger message. What is the one thing you want to leave with these kids, or what's a message you could give them right now, since maybe you didn't have the opportunity to let them know that there is somebody out there that'll listen to your message, and maybe who they can reach out to and things they should do?
Yeah, today we talked about, you know, knowing people's story, right? Sharing your own story. And like you mentioned, kids were coming up afterwards, taking a picture. Some of them, you know, you could look in their eyes and see that they were going through something, and that's why it hit home so personal. Whether it's a parent that, you know, is struggling with addiction, whether it's, you know, losing a loved one. And so hearing somebody that says, hey, sometimes life is really, really hard. But you know what? When we get knocked down, you know, we don't stay there. We stand up and we keep moving forward. And we honor the people that we lost, that we love. And I think that when you share so openly like I do, that's what allows students to say, you know what, man, this guy really cares and really sharing personal things, and I'm not alone in whatever fight that I'm facing. So I want kids to know that they're not alone when they go through tough stuff. they're not the only person in their school that's going through it, because so many times they think, man, I'm the only person at my high school that, is going through this. And that's not the case. And so knowing you have people that care about you is super important. And, when they heard me share my story, they could tell that I genuinely care too.
All right, the one thing I got to enjoy and see is Ronnie's reaction to you being here. He was so thankful and outpouring, and emotionally you could see the people coming around him and supporting him.
Yeah.
Tell us how you got involved in Ronnie and why you're here.
Yeah, so Ronnie was coaching a team in Charleston, right? And I live in Charleston, the minor league team there. He was one of the assistant coaches, and so when he reached out about doing this event, I'm like, man, if I'm home, like, I'll be there. And so, the relationship that he has with his players, seeing how much he cares for them and how much he loves them, meant a lot to me. So that's why I want to be involved. Yeah, so I mean, so far I've been 43 to 50 states, all across the country, from companies like Facebook, Microsoft, to elementary schools, right? I share because I write children's books. So my mission is all about love, unity, and resilience. And so a lot of athletes want to know how do we, make it professionally, or how do we play in college, or how do we just get through hard stuff in our life. And that's what I share. And so I'm grateful that I've been able to do it. And I make sure I keep my mom and my church family at the forefront of this mission, because that's the whole reason why I started it.
All right, this is Kip with the DailyRidge. I'm really happy to be here with Chris Singleton. Very impressed with your speech today, the children you touched, the lives that I hope are impacted by your speech.
Absolutely.
And more importantly, we're all here to support our buddy Ronnie with R2Cares. And at the end of the day, again, thank you for taking time out of your day to come out of South Carolina, support this effort, and I'm looking forward to working with you in the future.
Sweet, man. Thank you for having me on, man. Absolutely.